Hi there, friends, and welcome to Conversations at the Well podcast. We are so grateful that you decided to join us today. Whether you're watching on video or listening through a podcast platform, we're so happy you're here, and we believe that the Lord has something great for you to hear today. We have two special guests joining us today. If you're watching the video, you can already see these two beautiful curly-haired women. We have Molly Grace and Sue Beddingfield joining us today, and so I'll just let them introduce themselves. So, Sue, if you want to start.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. So I'm Sue. I'm wife to Bobby for going on 23 years and mom to Molly Grace. And we live in Dallas. And we're also a dog family. We have two dogs and we love the mountains and we love Jesus.
Hey friends, I'm Molly Grace Beddingfield, the only child of the luckiest parents alive, right? I am a sophomore at Auburn University in Alabama. I'm majoring in human development and family studies, and yeah, I'm just enjoying things. I'm a young life leader. It's great, and I'm super excited to be here today.
Molly Grace and Caroline were at school together, and they were in theater productions together, which allowed me to get to know Sue on a better in a better relationship in a deeper way, because we worked on a lot of drama productions together behind the scenes, and it was really very much a joy for me to get to know you better, Sue. And then we attended the same church for a little while, and I got to see you display your gift of singing and music on stage as you helped lead in the praise team at the church. And so I know you are a woman who is plugged in to the Lord. Your service with Sky Ranch, working on their boards and the things that you do just show that for you, being a Christian is not something you just say, but it's something that you live. And so I'm wondering if you would share with us a little bit just what God is doing in your life right now. What is He teaching you? What is He showing you?
I have been in a season for the past, I'm going to say the past few years, of just really struggling with my prayer life, feeling like I needed to go deeper and just have a breakthrough in my prayer life. And the Lord has answered that so beautifully, as He does. And, at first it was kind of slow. Like, I was introduced to this book called Two Chairs and by Bob Bodine. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's a very simple concept about sitting down, starting your day with two chairs, you in one and having the other one open for the Lord, and just asking, Lord, what do you have for me today? And then listening. And so I think that was kind of a turning point for me to say that it's not just me talking to Him. I heard an analogy in a Bible study I'm doing right now that I'll talk about in just a second. And the gal introduced it saying, you would never, with your husband or your roommate or anybody you live with that you're close to, you'd never go as you're racing out the door in the morning, okay, now I need this, bye, see you later. It might work once or twice, but you're not going to do that and be able to sustain a relationship. Then just the analogy of taking things to the Lord like that, like, we can't just go to Him with our laundry list and expect that we're going to have a rich prayer life. So I think that has just been so telling. And then, again, as the Lord does, and He just shows up so much, our Bible study at our church this semester it's called On Bended Knee. And it's the study of prayers from Jesus and the model prayer of the Lord's Prayer, to Job and his prayer of desperation, to Hannah and her prayer of longing for a child, and just on and on, and teaching all these different kinds of prayers and just what their conversations are with the Lord in Scripture, and then what the Lord says back to them in that. It's just been such a time of learning and experiencing God in a whole new way for me. He's doing a lot, I feel like, in my life right now.
Yeah, it's amazing to me the times when I have known in my spirit that there's a certain part of my spiritual life that needs to be strengthened. I know it's true because it's biblical. He's just waiting for us to ask.
Yeah.
He's just waiting for us to realize. And then he opens the door to all of these things that we would say, oh, isn't that a coincidence that I needed prayer and help? And our Bible study was focused on prayer. No, it's not coincidence at all. It's because he hears our request and he works and he weaves everything in our lives so that when we do come to him, his blessings and his provision is so abundant. That's such a great reminder to all of us. What is it that we feel we need? He's there. Ask, and it shall be given unto you. That is what his word says to us. So thank you for that reminder. We don't need to feel lost and distracted. And where do I go, on the internet to find what I need? We just need to go to him, and he will direct it to us.
Yeah. Mom started Mom started she did start a podcast. Mom started a Bible study with, Claire and I, and then some other girls from the TCA community, girls who've already graduated. And we've been meeting for this whole semester since like January 1, basically, via Zoom. And it's been great. But last week we talked about that in terms of just, seeing the provision of the Lord right in front of you with his hands open. And all we have to do is truly open our eyes. And it got me thinking of, if I'm living in an apartment by myself, I want 2 chairs. I don't want just one desk chair whenever I'm sitting down to read my Bible in the morning. I'm physically going to put 2 chairs next to me so that I can remember relationship, how it should be with the Lord. And we get so busy and distracted sometimes that we forget. And those relationships, like all, do take time, and they take intentionality. And I think one of the things I've been learning is through long distance relationships, especially with the people that we're so close with and we've lived with our whole life. And then suddenly sometimes, we move to college or something like that, and that relationship gets put online. So I was wondering if, Molly Grace, you could talk a little bit about that, about how, you and your mom have had to grow and evolve in an online relationship, and how, making the most of the times that you do get to see each other face to face. And then what does that look like these past 2 years of y'all having to grow and evolve in a relationship that you've never had to think about in that way before?
Yeah. So, I guess I'll give a little bit of backstory. Growing up, we were super close, have always been super close. My mommy is my best friend in the whole world. I remember in, middle school and high school talking with my friends about something, and I'd be like, oh, well, like, this is what my mom said about it. And they'd be like, you told your mom that? And I'm like, duh, you didn't. Like, we've just always had that kind of relationship. I mean, I think we've always been close. We definitely went through a phase, I don't even know how old I was, where we just would butt heads about literally anything. And I think it's because we're so similar. I think y'all get that, the Pino ladies over there.
We went through that too.
Oh yeah, a phase. And I don't think we were ever not close, but just really started butting heads. And I also think we went through a season, or at least I did, where we were like kind of unhealthily codependent on each other. Just like we had to work through that and learn that, like, man, my emotions and feelings need to not be based on how my mom feels about me. Even though I worship the ground she walks on and I want to please her, I want to honor her. It was like something we had to work through, which I feel like college helped, and just growth. I even kind of was thinking through our relationship that just over the past couple of years, and I think this is partially the distant separation and partially just how my walk with the Lord has grown recently. But like, when I became more dependent on Jesus than I was on my mom, like, that made our relationship a lot easier, because I wasn't like trying to get things from her that only the Lord could give me. And since coming to college, man, my freshman year was so hard. I tell people I'm at Auburn and they're like, man, you wanted to get out of there, huh? You wanted to get out of Texas. And I was like, no, I didn't mean to. I would go to school down the street if I could. Just kind of fell in love here, fell in love with this place. But being far was, I know it was hard for her. Well, she had a harder time my junior year of high school than she did my senior year of high school. Don't know what that was about. But
it was
I remember
everything, huh?
Yes, I remember a story about crying in the aisle at Tom Thumb over some cream cheese that was expired when I was supposed to be at college. So anyway, but last year was really hard for me. And I mean, just getting used to, I mean, I see her every day. I'm used to having that time to talk with her in the car or at home, or and not having that was really hard. But it also has made me much more like confident in who I am, not just as a daughter, but as my own person. And it has allowed me to kind of make my faith my own. Not that they forced anything on me, but just that like that distance has been really sweet. And I mean, everyone says you'll go to college and you'll finally be thankful for everything your parents have done, which I definitely, I mean, I kind of already was, just because I had a great relationship with them, but his just made me even more thankful. And I think our relationship has been even sweeter, and we don't fight as much because we're not in the same room 24/7. I FaceTime my parents every single night and say goodnight, even if it's for 2 seconds. And it's just, she's really good about texting me encouragement when she knows that something's coming up. But I don't feel it's not like, oh, I gotta go call mom. Like I want to call mom. And I think that our relationship has just been really sweet. Getting to college, I have realized that I'm kind of in the minority of people who have such a sweet relationship with their parents, and have two great, loving parents. That is not typical. And so it has made me so thankful for it.
I second that. We grew up in a very sweet place where that was all around us was people who had, great relationships and two loving parents. That was the majority. And then coming to college and that being the minority, it makes you take a second look. And especially with that relationship with your mom, I can really connect to my friends who have that sweet relationship with their mom. And there is that hard disconnect with those who don't, and kind of don't know what it's like to have been mentored in that way kind of your whole life, and are searching for that in other places.
Sue, I wonder if you would share with us some really good spiritual advice that you have learned from Molly Grace. As a mom, I have those moments when any of my children come to their own spiritual faith. They're not just walking in what they were taught. They're not walking to please me. They're not going to church because it's what I've told them they need to do. They're seeking it from themselves, and their faith is their own. And then there are those times when they speak into us. They speak the truth. And sometimes with Caroline, in fact, a lot of times with Caroline, just to correct me a little bit. That's the way that being not just mother and daughter, but being sisters in Christ is supposed to look like. And so, will you share with us some of the best advice, spiritual advice that you've learned from Molly Grace?
I love the way you say it, Kim, because they do know truth. They can call it out on us as well, um, and that does happen in our relationship. I think, though, the most impactful thing with Molly Grace is really just her modeling. It's not like advice that she's given me as much as just the way she's living her life. And, a couple of examples, like she had just had some knee surgery at Christmas, and I drove back with her in her car and was going to fly back home. I noticed right by her bed, she had this little index card taped up, and just like reminding her to hand everything over to the Lord. I took a picture of it because I was just like, she is living this. Or, we were having a conversation and she said, I've started every morning really putting on the armor of God and just thinking through, actually putting on the helmet and the breastplate and, the shoes, and just putting it on regardless of whether she thinks she has a battle that day or not. Because we know that, that the enemy is out there every day, and we've got to be prepared for it. And it's sometimes the days that we aren't expecting that we're going to have to go to battle that we end up having to do the most battle. That's been beautiful. And then, it says in the Psalm, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And what I have witnessed with Molly Grace, especially this last maybe year or year and a half, is that she prays for things. Um, she longs for things. And I know that she's praying about them. And, sometimes the Lord answers the way that she wants. But so many times over this past couple of years, I have seen the Lord change her heart to be his desires and not her desires. And that, like, I've lived, almost 60 years and never grasped that depth of spiritual wisdom that she's modeling now.
That's so good to hold things loosely, right?
That, what's funny? That's exactly what we call it, and I even jotted down right after that she holds things loosely.
Not always. It's a new thing.
It is,
New
and
thing
you
that I
know
will.
what? It's holding the things of this world loosely. It's holding the temporal things loosely. It's not holding the eternal things loosely. Those she's got a really good grasp on.
That's something that I had to learn when I went to college too. I remember that exact lesson. I would even walk around this campus sometimes, and I would be so just heavy in the heart, and I would put my hands out in front of me and just picture it in front of me, whatever it was, like the emotion, the trial, the hardship, this broken relationship, this desire, whatever it was. I'd try to picture it in my hands and say, "God, it's yours." And then I would say, "Let it slip out of these fingers, please."
Molly Grace, what do you think right now in the culture that we're living as a young woman? What's some advice that you would give to other young women, either your age or even those that it's amazing how much 2 years difference makes, isn't it? Those who are in high school right now
Yeah.
who are getting ready because here we are, college acceptance seasons, and I see on my Facebook feed and Instagram feed, the parents posting, "Oh, I'm going here." They've made their decision. What would be some advice that you might give to girls right now who are just trying to do life in this culture?
Yeah, man. I think that's such a good point. I actually laugh about all the time. Like, I am so different than I was 2 years ago, in good ways. But like I look in the mirror and I'm like, the first couple months of freshman year, it's like I miss high school, and now I'm like, oh, high school, like good times, but I don't want to go back. And college just does that to you. I think one, especially coming from the bubble that is the North Dallas Church Christian, small private Christian school community, I grew up knowing so much about God, but I think it's just recently really that I've started knowing him and having an intimacy with him that's based on his heart and our individual unique relationship in a small group right now, and we're reading through Romans, and Romans talks so much about a works-based faith. And I've always been like, well, I know that you're not supposed to have a transactional relationship with God. Like, I don't. Like, I know that my faith is not based on my works. But he's just really been revealing to me, like, yeah, it is. You do view me as transactional, and here's why. And that's like a whole nother story. Anyway, I was reading this study the other day, and it was talking about like, stop spending so much time praying to get back into the loving arms of the Father. Like, you never left them.
Mm.
And I think that is one that if I would have known that a couple of years ago, life would have been much easier, because it's like, gosh, like I know that the Lord loves me and I know that he forgives me, but he's tired of forgiving me. And he's like, oh, I got to go forgive this one again. Like, hasn't she learned yet? And I think that just in my life, and I can't even point to the day, but sometime in the last year, 6 months, there was a switch where like I understood, like my confidence began coming from Christ instead of my circumstances, and that switch flipped where I was like, oh, like he loves me and I never fell out of his arms. And it wasn't that I didn't believe he loved me or didn't believe that he forgave me. Like, I knew those things, but when I started living like a daughter of the king, my life became so much easier because I was holding things loosely. And I was like, the things of this earth don't matter because, like, look where I'm going to end up one day. And so I think that was just a really big one for me. And reading that plan about Romans, someone read that part about, like, you never fell out of them. So why do you spend so much time praying to get back into the arms of your Father? Was just a big one for me. And I feel like that especially hits home for those of us who grew up knowing so much about Christ, because I can give you any answer, about the Bible. And it's different when it's about a relationship.
Wow, that's great. I've been learning that too. A lot about the character of God. So I'm wondering if you have a word for other young women or moms who are mentoring their daughters and living a mentoring life right now. I wonder if you have a word for them too.
Mentoring, whether it's formal or whether it's more casual, like Nike says, just do it. Share your experiences. I had done some, more unofficial mentoring over the years. And I think I'm sort of that personality where I just kind of, give unsolicited advice, whether they want to hear it or not, right? You have anything to say? But our church has a mentoring program for women. And they asked me, would you consider being a mentor to a young mom? And I was like, oh, I don't think so. I don't think I can do that. But keep me on the list because, when y'all start matching again sometime down the road, I think I'd say yes. And so they came back to me, and it was just my own pride getting in the way of me thinking that I didn't know how to do it perfectly. So I wasn't going to do it at all. And I was paired up with a young mom. And so we've been doing life together for, going on 3 years, I think. And it's just really sweet. She, of course, as is always the case, she teaches me much more than I could possibly offer her. But just even though we're in very different stages of life, our circumstances end up being very similar. The things we face on a daily basis are similar. And so I think just take heart, hold things loosely, like what we talked about, turn to the Lord. Somebody told me once when Molly Grace was little, the days are long, but the years are short. And that's so true. So, try to appreciate the days that you have. I don't know that I would want to go. I can't look back and say, oh, I wished I would have, spent more time cherishing this phase or whatever, because look what I've got. You guys have been listening today to what the Lord gave us in a child. So, I would never do that differently, but I would just tell young moms, cherish the time that you have because it does go by in the blink of an eye. And it's hard. It's hard physical parenting when they're little, then it gets to be hard mental and emotional parenting when they get big. But, just be there, be real, be transparent, let them see you mess up.
All good, all very good words to give just to young mothers. Don't expect to, I think, that there's ever going to be a time where as a mom, it's not going to be work.
Right.
Work. It's intentional work. There's a lot of joy that comes. It's the joy that comes in the journey, along with it. If it was all easy, we wouldn't appreciate it. I don't think we would.
Yes, sometimes it is delayed gratification, right?
Yeah. And you have to expect it. You have to expect that just, like when you plant a seed of a flower, you have to wait. It takes time to grow before you actually begin to see the beauty of what was intended in it all along. And that's a picture of motherhood. Stay with it. Keep watering it. Keep watching because you'll get the glimpses of the growth and to know that. And then you and I get the blessing of right here getting to see the beauty of what God intended when that seed was planted in the first place. It's worth it. It's worth every minute of it. I wonder what's one other thing, because I think we have a unique opportunity, Sue, for you to be able to speak into the hearts of moms who are getting ready in just a few months to ship their children off, some of them very long distance, and I want to say especially long distance. And really, it doesn't matter if they're an hour away, 30 minutes, when they're no longer living in your house. As a mom, it feels long distance when you walk into their room and there's their bed, but they're not in it, and you don't know really when they're going to be in it again. But you really are like states away from each other.
Yes.
What's maybe one parting word here that you can give to moms? What do you wish you would know?
I don't know whether whether I knew this or not, but I'd say this is more of a practice. And Molly Grace touched on it earlier, that we do, FaceTime, or at least, talk on the phone every night, and multiple times during the day as well. But here's a golf analogy with both your long game and your short game. It's kind of back to the grocery list of prayers with the Lord. Like, it's okay to have the conversations where we're like, did you get that package I sent you? And, have you returned that stuff, in the mail that you needed to return? And, do you need more money for groceries this month? Or, it's fine to have those conversations, but just make sure that that's not all that you're having, that you make time for the strategic conversations, for the intentional conversations. And, watching church together is one way that we do that. I love that you guys are doing a Bible study together, just having those intentional times, that it's not just housekeeping, to keep the relationship strong, and maybe even stronger than it ever was before when they were under your roof.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you, Molly Grace and Sue, for your wisdom, for your laughter, for your tears. Even I appreciate it. That's life. That's the way we live life with each other. All of those things together. So we just appreciate you taking some time out of your day and having this conversation with us.
Thanks so much for watching or listening to this episode. Right now, our ministry is doing work in both the United States and in Cuba. If you'd like to find out more about our Mercy Ministry or hear stories from our Words from the Well blog, you can visit the link in our show notes. You can also find us on Instagram at Well Women's Ministry for updates on everything we have going on. We hope you have a blessed week, and join us next week for our next conversation.